has something now smaller in his hand, obviously, it has to fit. So if the glove don't fit, you must have quit. Now, when I wear my condoms, I make sure I discard the motherfuckers in the trash.
Stay on the subject, please.
And that's what I'm talking about. Herman Jason Weston Jr., a.k.a. Liar, and the Sentinel Danny Bakewell.
Okay, thank you for your comments. That wraps up the general comments. We're going to take items 3, 4, 6, and 7 on consent, unless there's an objection. Pardon? Oh, you do? Okay, well, let's see what we got here. I've got all right, we've got, two other general public comments. One from Phyllis Daughtery. Is that you, Phyllis? Please come forward. And Diana Mendoza. Is Diana in the house?
Yes, she's present.
Okay. Sorry for the oversight. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm Phyllis Daugherty with Animal Issues Movement. We just have 1 minute on public comment.
Yes.
All right, then I will go very quickly. I want you to see some of the people that are involved in this AB 485 and the retail puppy rescue mills. This is the gentleman that started it. I'm sure you're aware of the Jamel Moore case right now. This is the lady that was just convicted of animal cruelty. Both of them are involved in the creating of retail rescues for animals. So I just want the public to be aware that when you're dealing with people, just because they deal with animals does not mean that they're necessarily good people or they know more about what should be done. And you need to listen very, very carefully to everyone who contributes. Secondly, this 110 degrees was the temperature inside one of our animal control trucks this last week that were supposed to, according to Mr. Koretz, have been retired and replaced 3 years ago. So this is the temperature in which we're carrying dogs, 110 degrees.
Hey, that's bad for dogs and for humans.
Pardon?
Thank you. Diana?
Hi, I'm Diana Mendoza from PETA, and first welcome to the committee. Yesterday's LA Times featured an article on the front page of the California section detailing major issues with LA Animal Services. I've brought copies for you, but none of what was covered in the article should come as a surprise since we've been reporting on these issues to the PAW Committee, the rest of the Council, and the Animal Services Commission for years now. We urge you to prioritize fixing the issues that keep LA Animal Services from being a useful agency: a broken phone system, delayed or non-existent response times, failure to adequately enforce the mandatory spay-neuter law, a voucher system that is essentially useless, and continuous understaffing. The city needs and its residents deserve a functioning animal control agency. We can't even begin to start discussions on the careless citywide cat program, which will essentially relegate more animals to the streets until we have a functioning animal service agency. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for your comments. We've been joined by our colleague, Mitch Englander. Councilman, we were going to take items 3, 4, 6, and 7 on consent. Great. There's no objection. That will be the order. Item 1 will hold until the committee chair returns. And let's take up item 2.
Item 2 is a motion, Bonin, Englander, Blumenfield, and the Department of General Services report relative to the current state of the Los Angeles Fire Department helicopter fleet.
All right, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
The floor is yours.
My name is Richard Colson. I'm the Director of Fleet Services.
Charles Combs, Section Commander, Los Angeles Fire Department Air Operations.
All right, and this is in response to the May 30th motion, the current state of Los Angeles Fire Department helicopter fleet. Just a timeline. A verbal report was given to the Public Safety Committee on June 20th, 2017, and a follow-up written report was provided July 27th, 2017. and it was discussed at the August 9th Public Safety Committee meeting. In the report, it gives a background on LAFD, LAPD, and DWP aircraft fleets and recommends short and long-term plans to address critical requirements to maximize helicopter availability. Important components of the short-term plans are 1, to recognize fire season as year-round, 2, to realign Augusta AW139 48-month inspections.
Is that an aircraft?
That's an aircraft. Okay. That's their water dropping aircraft, yes. In order to perform 1 inspection per year. 3 is to hire the helicopter mechanic position that was approved in the 17-18 budget, which we're in the process of doing now. And 4 is to request 2 additional helicopter mechanic positions. Important components of the long-term plan are for GSD, LAFD, LAPD, and DWP to begin discussions on MOAs, and for the fire department through future annual budget requests to increase its fleet configuration to 7 helicopters, consisting of 5 medium and 2 light. And since then, on August 22nd, 2017, a meeting was held with LAPD, LAFD, DWP, the CAO, I think it was CD11 and CD2, to discuss Councilmember Bonin's letter of recommendations dated August 8th. And we also had a August 31st, 2017 meeting, our first meeting to discuss the MOA with LAPD, LAFD, and DWP.
We concur with all of the recommendations in the GSD letter back to council. We would also like to just reiterate the need for the 5th medium-duty helicopter so that we're able to sustain our medium fleet requirements of 3 medium-duty helicopters and 1 light-duty helicopter.
There were a number of questions that Councilman Bonin posed that I think I hear you responded to. Are there still some outstanding issues or not?
Yes, so there was a number of items identified in Councilmember Bonin's letter. Again, we already had our first meeting to go through those specific items.
Did you just refresh this committee and what actions you took at that meeting then?
There was, if I'm not mistaken, there was like 13.
Well, for example, expedited MOA discussions between GSD and all 3 customer departments. Has that been done?
Yes, we had our first meeting.
That was the first meeting.
That was the first meeting that we had.
Provide provision authority and identify funding for 2 additional helicopter mechanics.
We're in the process of doing that now. That's why we're here.
Grant a CAO Rule 11 exemption to allow the fire department to increase its fleet to 7 copters.
So as we were waiting to put our 4th medium-duty helicopter into service, Fire 4, we were able to obtain a Rule 11 to keep Fire 1, a Bell 412 helicopter, in service during that transitional period of time. Since then, that Rule 11 has expired, and Fire 1 has been turned over to GSD for salvage. So at this point, there is no...
Wait a minute. You were using it, and then you turned it over to salvage?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
This is yes.
It's an old one.
So an older one, thank you.
Yeah.
So at this point, there is no need for a Rule 11. Our current strategy is to actually purchase a 5th medium-duty helicopter to fill that void.
So we have then 6 helicopters, not 7,
So our
currently?
current authority is for 6 helicopters. Just a little bit of a background on that. Previously, our fleet was composed of 5 medium-duty helicopters and 1 light-duty helicopter. As we transitioned from different types of helicopters and recognized the need for extensive pilot training, we adjusted our fleet from 5 medium helicopters to 4 medium helicopters, and from 1 light helicopter to 2 light helicopters. So as of right now, our current configuration is 4 mediums, 2 lights for a total of 6. What we're requesting is an addition of 1 medium helicopter, which would bring us up to 5. And at that point, we would like to move forward with increasing the total amount of our fleet from 6 to 7. So at the end of the day, we would be looking at 5 medium helicopters and 2 light-duty helicopters to accomplish our training mission as well as our service delivery.
Another issue was to establish department-specific mandatory minimums for helicopter activity to ensure operational readiness. Is
Yes,
that
we've determined that our minimum fleet requirements are 3 medium helicopters, and 1 light-duty helicopter. And in order to accomplish that, we need to move to an increase in the fleet, like I mentioned before, to 5 mediums and 2 lights. Typically, we see, or historically, I should say, we see that our medium-duty helicopters are in maintenance about, at least 2 of them are in maintenance about 40% of the time. Therefore, the need for 1 additional medium to meet our threshold of 3 and 1.
And did we identify MICLA funding to purchase that one yet?
We're in the process of doing that right now. We're meeting with our staff. June Gibson's helping us out along with that, and we're in discussions with the CAO as well.
If I can say, as far as the establishing of the mandatory minimums, that is with the fire department, police department, and Department of Water and Power, all 3 customers that we serve.
Okay. And so you're collaborating on that?
That's the MOE discussion.
The MOU?
One component of it, yes.
Develop a position description including the necessary qualifications and experience for a civil aviation manager with full authority over all city helicopter maintenance. Is that in motion?
Well, that was discussed at our meeting, and not all departments are in agreement with the way that was phrased. I think
you mean in terms of it being an aviation manager, or?
As far as there being an overarching component, we decided to go towards the AERC, Airborne Emergency Response Committee, which is a committee that has been established years ago but just hasn't been meeting. So the decision was made to go through the AERC committee in order to satisfy that bullet point.
Consider the need for a third-party audit of GSD heliport maintenance operations.
And along with that, I think the consensus was that if there was to be any audit performed, it should be performed across the board for all departments, police, fire, and GSD. If we so desire to do so with further discussions amongst the
group. The decision hasn't been made yet whether or not there is a need for that, you're saying, but it needs to be across all.
We haven't all come to a consensus yet, no.
Explore adding a swing or weekend maintenance work shift.
With the addition of the 2 helicopter mechanic positions that we're asking for, we would definitely look into that and look to implement that, yes, with the 2 additional helicopter mechanic positions.
Procure an advisory industry-approved system to accurately measure the imbalance between GSD labor capacity and the workload generated by the city's helicopter fleet.
So I think there was some level of misunderstanding with that. GSD does have a maintenance tracking system that does just that.
And build increased surge capacity into GSD's staffing model to anticipate unforeseen issues and unscheduled events.
And that is certainly an item that needs to be discussed so we can all determine what increased surge capacity exactly means in the specific events that would trigger those with each of the departments. So that would be part of our MOE discussions.
Part of the MOE, okay.
Right.
Councilman, any follow-up thoughts?
Well, I already heard all this, and so I think it was either public safety and budget, maybe both. Yeah. And we move forward on the recommendations, but I wanted to take a step back and really applaud the efforts, the heroic efforts that just took place at Latuna Canyon, the largest fire to ever occur in the history of the city, in the city boundaries. The effort was phenomenal. And Mr. Price, I don't know if you've actually had the experience, I did this years ago in a major fire in my district, to actually go up in one of these water-dropping helicopters during an active fire. And I will tell you right now, you are just left in shock and awe at the ability and the capability of not just the aircraft, but the pilots. It's just amazing. And
what about the fire?
Well, the fire is hot. Yeah, you actually feel the heat from the fire as you're flying through the fire, and it's just amazing. And the fact that you can imagine going through this plume of dark smoke in serious, scary conditions that, with wind factors and heat and all of those issues, and doing so almost flying blind, and hitting the target every time. I mean, we had still 4, I think, properties lost in this fire, but what were at risk and saved is just phenomenal. And from the boots on the ground, but the ones in the air that have that attack system is just incredible. One of the things we did talk about when this came up in the committee, though, so I want to thank everybody, because it's not just the pilots. It's general services. It's everybody keeping that aircraft fine-tuned and capable and in the air under these kind of conditions at all times. There's a lot of workers involved on the ground that don't get the credit, that do a lot of work and making sure that not only they're maintained, and but they're putting, that mechanic, that person that is working on that system is just as important as the pilot. In fact, that's the person who's making sure that that pilot is safe. So it's really pretty incredible. One of the things we talked about in the committee discussion last time, and the fire chief, I've actually had follow-up conversations with him about this, is the ability and conversation with some of our other local cities and creating a partnership of contracting those services, whether it's maintenance and or even fire aircraft, because we're often responding to not just under mutual aid, because we get reimbursed for mutual aid, and we'll get reimbursed in the other LA County and others, because this was a declared state of emergency, for example, under Latuna, both by the mayor and the governor. They'll get a reimbursement under the provisions set forth in mutual aid contracts. But it's the ones that aren't mutual aid that we're still responding to on a constant basis that we don't get any reimbursements for. And we provide services for other cities in many cases, or in a few cases. We used to do a lot more. And there's an opportunity, just like the Metro contract is a great example with LAPD, where we're deploying our resources on overtime, getting full cost reimbursement for that, and having more officers on the street. It's a benefit to everybody. We're doing it in the city of San Fernando in fire services, where 4 stations actually respond in the perimeter around and directly into San Fernando. They pay us an annual contract, not a cost per delivery. So having those discussions with some of our other local cities for air support would be great, because a lot of them don't have those capabilities, and we are responding. And so the fire chief was very welcome in doing that. I would just want to know if you guys have any thoughts on those suggestions.
I worked in Battalion 12, and we took care of the city of San Fernando, so I've got plenty of experience. And the concept itself, I think, as you mentioned, works well for everyone. And really, the benefit to it is we start collaborating with different agencies and different municipalities around our own. And I think if and when the day ever comes where we have some sort of major catastrophe, we already have lines of communication established. We're practicing ICS already, and I think it'll just make for a much smoother management of any large-scale incident. So we're in favor of it, although our priority is obviously the city of Los Angeles and meeting our minimum thresholds. But we welcome any discussions along those lines. We've got a fantastic relationship right now with LA County. Over the last 5 days, they were able to support us when we needed them. I just also wanted to mention, to reiterate on your comments about the collaboration between the different agencies on this fire, LAPD played a huge hand in providing us assistance with evacuations and securing the areas. GSD, the morning before the fire, we actually had discussions on adjusting scheduled maintenance and moving them around in the event that we had an incident, large-scale incident that day, and about 4 hours later that played out. So just want to say thank you to all the stakeholders for the collaboration, and a little bit of thanks to Mother Nature for raining on us too. But I think without those different entities coming together, we may have been looking at a different outcome. So
And if I can add to that, because we have some representatives in the room from Water and Power, we had an incident where we had to recover an aircraft, and I was called on the weekend to try to get a lowboy and a crane to pick up the aircraft, put it on a lowboy, and get it trailered back to the hangar. And I wasn't successful at doing that until I got a call from Water and Power, and they said that they would provide any resource that we needed. So just a collaboration even with other departments. And they called me, actually, which was rather nice. And they were able to get a crane and a lowboy out there with the assistance of their drivers and our mechanics. We were able to get the aircraft on the trailer safely and get it back to the hangar. So special thanks to them.
You know, it's some of the stories that after a major disaster and a fire or something like this, you just don't hear a lot of the details at moment to moment. You mentioned the collaboration with LAPD. There was a massive turnout by reserve officers in uniform there doing evacuations. You know, these are men and women in uniform that don't get paid. We had a lot of volunteers with large animal rescue evacuations. Hanson Dam, which already had a rodeo scheduled, canceled it so they can bring in all the animals. I mean, all the stories that we hear that come out of, you know, everybody is the first to jump on what went wrong and the after-action reports. But what went right, and then what went right leading up to this, the practice, the tabletop exercises, all the supportive services that support all the first responders. There's a lot of work that goes into this leading up to the incident. So I want to thank you all for that work, because I think it's a great example of why we can continue to be the best city and the best prepared for emergencies in the country. And it's because of our city workers and our staff and our first responders all working together, and I appreciate it. So thank you all. So I would recommend that we go ahead and move this item to full city council with recommendations from the other committees and from the departments.
Okay,
Except for we have an adjustment. Wait, there's more.
Angela Sherrick Bright, Department of General Services. I'd like to recommend that the two positions that are in the report, that we be able to look at getting funding through the unappropriated balance for that and take that through the FSR. Those positions are positions as both fire, police, and GSD think that we need to go forward to ensure that we keep our helicopters to the level that we need.
And those were the recommendations from the Public Safety and Budget and Finance,
That's
or the
correct.
Public Safety Committee. So, yeah, that's what I want to go ahead and move, is what those recommendations, exactly what those were, and including these two positions.
Okay.
Yes. And obviously, we'll have to run it through the FSR, but at least it'll be primed for it. Yes.
Okay, let me just say,
If we have approval from the chair, of course.
well,
Indeed.
he'll have a chance to weigh in. But let me just thank you, first of all, for the report. And I want to just second the accommodation about the collaborative effort of the city family, everybody involved, really coming together to respond. I mean, you know, and in this case, you know, several departments really were the first responders and working in a way that really makes it smooth. I know that we have hundreds on the ground supporting the 7 helicopters and the pilots. How many pilots do we have, though, available? Do we have like 14 pilots available, or is it 8 available? Or what's
There's a total of 18, including our
18?
trainees. So we have the staffing to staff up that additional aircraft. I'll reassure you on that. We, just as an example of our business model, when we have a large event like that, we call everyone in from home, all of our pilots, so that we can go into a work-rest cycle to ensure that they're well rested when they are in the air. So we had all of our folks show up for that as well.
Okay, well, good. Well, thank you for the report. We've been joined by the chairman, Mr. Paul Koretz. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and hopefully timely. I have some recommendations to make on this item. First, that we approve a set of recommendations that will not have a fiscal impact, and those would be to instruct the LA Fire Department, LA Police Department, and DWP to collaborate with GSD before making changes to current aircraft configuration to ensure needed maintenance resources are addressed. Also, to expedite MOA discussions between GSD and the other 3 departments. To develop a position description, including all the necessary qualifications and experience for a city aviation manager with full authority over all city helicopter maintenance. To consider the need for a third-party audit of GSD heliport maintenance operations, and to explore adding a swing or weekend maintenance work shift. And also that the City Council request the CAO to report on the following recommendations, since these will have a budgetary impact, and have the CAO report to Budget and Finance Committee relative to the following recommendations. Authorized resolution authority for 2 helicopter mechanics, class code 3742 in GSD. Authorize GSD to outsource new aircraft completion work and outsource consideration of selected modification and non-critical work. Grant a CAO Rule 11 exemption to allow LAFD to increase its fleet to 7 helicopters. Identify MICLA funding to purchase a 5th LAFD medium lift helicopter in fiscal year 2018-2019. Establish department-specific mandatory minimums for helicopter availability to ensure operation readiness. Procure an industry-approved system to accurately measure the imbalance between GSD labor capacity and the workload generated by the city's helicopter fleet, and build increased surge capacity into GSD's staffing model to anticipate unforeseen issues and unscheduled events. And I think that covers just about everything, but I may have missed something.
Just wanted to make sure that the two positions that we're looking at would be resolution authorities. And
Yes.
I think, okay.
Okay, and so that will be part of it for the record.
Resolution authority, which means what exactly?
So basically, the funding for those, we would ask for them to become regular during the budget process so that we could actually get those positions now as opposed to waiting for the budget. And so that's why we're asking for them to go to the FSR also.
Thank you.
So that is the motion, and
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman. We need a second.
we'll take it, and that will pass without objection. Hearing no objections, that item is approved. Item number 1.
Item number 1 is a motion, Corretz O'Farrell, relative to instructing the Department of Animal Services to report in regard to specialized facilities and services provided to animals besides cats and dogs housed at the city's animal shelters.
Good afternoon. Dana Brown, Animal Services. So I would like to provide for you an update on the status of the rabbit facilities at our shelters. So we did do an extensive review of our rabbit holding areas at all 6 of the shelters, and the Board of Animal Services Commissioners approved the use of $18,000 from the Animal Welfare Trust Fund for necessary alterations and improvements to those areas. After the review, the department consulted with one of our dedicated volunteers by the name of Michelle Kelly. In addition to being an animal services volunteer, Michelle is a licensed educator for the House Rabbit Society, very well respected amongst animal welfare advocates, and Michelle identified immediate recommendations for 3 of the department's 6 shelters. I'm sorry, 4 of them. Well, actually 3, and then there was another one later on, and I'll get to that a little bit. So her suggestions will provide better housing for rabbits while promoting adoptions and bringing in potential volunteers, which was the thing that we were sort of looking to do. She did make recommendations for repairs, and those repairs are basically related to location, temperature control, and overall comfort of the animals. So at the Harbor Animal Shelter, they wanted us to install a awning or a canopy outside of the rabbit keeping area to aid in providing additional shade to the room in the hopes to allow the air conditioning unit to operate optimally. The shelter staff and the volunteers are using blankets to provide additional shade from the sun, piercing through the windows when that's necessary. These blankets lined alongside the cages are unsightly and could cause a potential health risk to the rabbits. So then we wanted to provide a permanent canopy for them to be used as necessary. So that has been done. It was about a $4,000 job, and we've been able to complete that. At the North Central Animal Shelter, which I believe is the animal shelter that Mr. Corretz, you visited, those rabbits needed to be moved into buildings during the hot summer months. And just to put it into perspective, the North Central Animal Shelter is undergoing major renovations. We are at the very beginning of this renovation project that's expected to last a couple of years. We are now moving the animals and preparing the building to be empty, moving employees into modular facilities during this. So obviously, the end result for the rabbits at the North Central Shelter is not something that's going to be soon to come. But we expect it to be one of the model facilities because it is going to be a new facility, and we have had the benefit of Ms. Kelly's recommendations expertise as we go into the build out of this. But these animals, we had to purchase new cages for them and to be for their temporary space. And we had a problem with the vendor for a while, but we were able to rectify that problem, and we did. We were successful with that purchase, and the animals also. Sorry, here. So the temporary changes at North Central cost about $12,000, and we are and those things have all of those products have been bought, and the animals are moved into their new area. The West Valley at the West Valley, there's like two separate phases for that. The purchase of a portable AC unit, which is something that we've already done, and that unit has been placed in the rabbit facility. And for phase two, the department is going to draft a scope of work that goes along with Ms. Kelly's recommendations for the modifications to the room that they're currently in. So we are going to be working with the General Services Construction Forces to obtain cost estimates so that we can move forward with her recommendations. They do include things such as additional overhead cooling material on the rooftop, exhaust fans, and a larger air conditioning unit. And these are all things that we plan to pay for through the Animal Welfare Trust Fund. The South LA shelter actually is not something that originally she had made recommendations on. However, now with the UC Davis program that is there, that we have the Capacity for Care CAT program that we have there, Ms. Kelly agrees that the rabbits should be moved into a private structure that's away from the dogs and the noise. And so we are working on doing that at that facility in conjunction with that Capacity for Care program. So just kind of to put it into perspective in terms of our stats, since fiscal year 12-13, we've taken in an average of 815 rabbits annually, and we've adopted out an average of about 381 rabbits to the public, and then placed about 114 annually through our New Hope partners. Up to present, at the end of 16-17, we had taken in over 52,000 animals, and 720 were rabbits. So it's about a little over 1% of the annual intake is rabbit intake. We do have incredible rabbit volunteers that provide most of the care and handling and exercising of our rabbits. Most of our rabbits stay in the shelters for over a year. Our rabbit adoption fees are a little higher than neighboring shelters, and some of this is because our volunteers provide very specific training and education for first-time rabbit owners, and they want to keep the adoption fees, they don't want them to be too low. Our adoption fees for rabbits is $71, and our rabbits are altered and microchipped before they are released to a new family. And although $71 may seem high, the cost of having a bunny altered is significantly higher. So we're still providing a good value to our clients while keeping the animal or the rabbit advocates satisfied that we are not making it overly easy for these animals to be adopted and perhaps abused. In terms of marketing, rabbits make great quiet pets for apartment dwellers. They live about 10 years or more if they have proper nutrition and care. We promote them regularly on social media. We have extensive information on our website about rabbits, including litter box training, handling, dieting, housing, indoor bunny proofing, which has to do with electrical cords, exercise, companionship, vet care, all kinds of things, grooming. We have all of that on our website. The department is very much committed to finding appropriate homes for these animals, as we are with all of the animals in our shelter. But as with any animal, pet owners it has a special responsibility depending upon what kind of pet it is. And while people tend to know quite a bit more about dog and cat ownership, more effort has to go into preparing people for pet rabbits. And so we like to make sure that this information is available to them. And our wonderful rabbit volunteers like to sort of be hands-on with anybody who is interested in adopting a rabbit, so that some of the special needs of a rabbit can be discussed and taught. And so this is pretty much how we market and prepare possible rabbit owners to adopt our bunnies.
So in each shelter, we've taken steps to provide greater comfort and more appropriate housing for the rabbits, and better visibility and signage, I assume.
The evaluation that we did resulted in 4 of the shelters being changed. The other 2 shelters, I suspect, was and I'm actually, I should have had Miss Kelly come with me today. That would have been awesome to have her here, because she is such a wonderful advocate and so very educated about this, and she could tell you about the other 2 shelters that she did not make recommendations about, which would be West LA and East Valley.
And do we know how visible the rabbit sections are in these other 2 shelters, in terms of whether somebody just walking through the shelter is likely to be able to spot them, or whether they have adequate signage so that people are aware of them?
Yeah, so I think that the idea of adequate signage sort of is a judgment call. Ms. Kelly thought that it was adequate because I think on some level they want you to ask about it. Now, we can do more to just direct from the door signage that says to go in a particular direction if you're interested in bunnies, and to make sure that somebody is over there. But we sort of, because of the staffing issues that we have, we kind of like people to stop at the front and ask, and then we can get a bunny volunteer to come to the desk to get you.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a fair assumption, though. I mean, if you just walked into a shelter and didn't see any rabbits, a certain percentage of people will just assume we don't have rabbits, either in the system or that particular shelter. So having somebody ask when they might not even know it's a possibility, I don't think is adequate.
Okay. So we certainly can work with the sign shop and get some signage that's just at the, even if it says something like interested in bunnies, ask us, or something that allows us to pair them with a bunny expert so that they can get the information that they need.
Yeah, I think you have to do something, because certainly my experience at this shelter you referenced was that not only were they in an inappropriate spot, but if you were looking for them, you couldn't possibly find them. They were just hidden. So unless someone directed you, you would never know they had bunnies, and you would never know where to find them.
Okay.
And as a final response to this motion, if we could also get a written report responding to all these issues.
Absolutely. So am I able to put together the report that I have here and just submit it through council file? Is that fine?
If you can write it up and add anything that answers these questions about the appropriate level of comfort for the animals, and the ability to identify that they're there through signage and other means.
Okay, will do.
Thanks,
Mr. Price?
Thanks for the report. Just a question: are the older bunnies or younger bunnies more popular? I mean, if it's a younger rabbit, is he a bunny, and he gets a older, he's a rabbit, or what's the distinction between a bunny and a bunny rabbit? And
No, I don't think that. No, so bunnies are bunnies, rabbits are bunnies. It doesn't matter how old they are. We do get a larger group of people who are interested in bunnies around the Easter holiday. But
Older or younger, does it matter? It's all about the same, or
Um,
curious?
I don't, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know whether or not people are asking for various ages, but of course, as a little, when they're little and cute, they are really little and cute.
Yeah.
And so, people
I
tend
think
to
I got
kinda-
one for Easter once upon a time.
Right, right. So there is a little bit of more of a interest at that time, but again, we want to be careful about what people's intentions are at certain times of the year, and just making sure that they recognize the responsibility of a rabbit, and what kind of environment they live in, and whether or not it's good for that type of a pet.
Thank you.
Just some of the
Wonder.
funding for the air conditioning units, the shade structure. You said it was about $4,000 for the shade structure.
It was $4,000 at the Harbor Shelter, the awning was, but then at North Central, there was quite a bit more work that needed to be done, close to $13,000 worth of work there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And where does that coming from? What funds?
The Animal Welfare Trust Fund.
And that's funded by how?
It is donations, donation-based.
Oh, it's all donation-based?
Yes,
Okay.
sir. And so we do take that to our board and request the use of those funds
Right.
for
Okay.
the animal's comfort, yeah.
So, sounds to me, so we're building this structure, if I can draw the picture from what I heard, that has an isolation away from the other louder animals with a shade structure and a high-capacity air conditioning system, and this accounts for 1% of the intake of all animals we get in the system. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So we're spending all this money on the 1%ers. I'm just saying that I want to identify what's being put forth by the chair here, which is usually contrary. Anyway, okay, I won't go down that road. Just rattling off back what we. Anyway, okay. Thanks.
Also, we have one speaker from the public, Phyllis Doherty.
They get the air. Shade. Say.
Phyllis Story with the Animal Issues Movement. Rabbits aren't the only other animals we take in, and unfortunately we have no facilities for reptiles, snakes, birds that are adequate. There's no food supply. When they get them in, the employees run out and buy food for them, and they try to find a way to make them comfortable. So we need to consider more than just rabbits, although rabbits are important. Let me bring up something I brought up at public comment. This was the temperature inside the compartment of for a dog that had to be brought in from a stray this last week by our animal control officer, who had to stop and soak it with water and so forth so it didn't die.
I think you're off topic.
No, I'm not.
That
I'm not.
that
I'm not off
uninterested in
topic
this.
at all. Rabbits are also picked up. There is no way that a rabbit could survive being picked up in a compartment. This is 3 years and nothing has been done about that. Lastly, we put up an entire series of rabbit spay-neuter videos done by Dr. Mackey this last week. Just finished them. They're also on Michelle Kelly's site. So if veterinarians, I just want to finish my thought. If veterinarians want to learn how to alter rabbits cheaper, they will now be able to do it free of charge.
Thank you. So we're going to hold this item in committee pending a written report, and I'd like to have the written report include any plans for reptiles, snakes, etc., that we have in our shelter system. Item number 5. Has that already been done?
Item number 5 is a report from the Personnel Department relative to the 2018 Civilian Benefits Program.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Parisi, and I'm the chair and one of the labor representatives on the Joint Labor Management Benefits Committee that administers the benefits program for civilian employees in the city of Los Angeles. I'm here primarily to introduce Steve Montagno, who'll give you the full report on the benefits plan for 2018 plan year. I do want to note that the proposal that you will, or the proposal that you will see for plan year 2018 really represents the culmination of years of work to, on the one hand, work toward providing a really strong benefits program for city employees while making every effort possible to contain costs and make the plans affordable. And so I think this year there was a culmination of that work in terms of moving toward a benefit program that restored a lot of the healthcare providers that were eliminated during the move toward the narrow networks. And so we were able to make that remediation this year in plan year 17, enhanced some of the dental benefits which were identified as deficient. So that occurred in plan year 17. And moving toward plan year 18, we're going to really move full bore into developing a really broad-based wellness program that it is our goal to really be able to affect the culture of city employees to be able to engage in more sort of positive consciousness and awareness of the need to sort of maintain healthy practices. So, and I want to also note that the overall projected increase for plan year 18 will be a 5.1% increase. And again, I want to say that that really reflects a lot of hard work to make certain that the benefit plans are good and sustainable. Mr. Montano?
Okay. Thank you, Cheryl. So I'll just maybe walk through a few items that are noted in the report and then see if you have any questions. There were not major or will not be major plan design changes for next year. So most of what we have included here simply reflects what the premium adjustments will be for next year. So as noted in the report, the increase from Kaiser is 1.9%. So that actually came in lower than expected and also lower than the long-term trend. So if we look back over the last 10 years for that plan, the average increase has been about 6%. With respect to the Anthem plans, so we have the new plan, the new regional network, Vivity, which was introduced this year. That plan is going up by 8.5%. The other plans that they offer, which include the PPO and the narrow network and the full network, those are going up by a little under 13%. None of those increases were surprises. So actually, as part of what we did last year with the health plan procurement, we were able to negotiate rate caps with Anthem, that by us being able to take that action, that this year that actually saved us just a little under $12 million. The increases would have been higher based on the actual experience. The other thing to remember about the increases for the Anthem plans is just a little under 1/3 of those they're actually attributable to ACA fees, or ACA taxes. So those are taxes that are part of the Affordable Care Act that will be required to pay next year that we're not required to pay this year. So the only procurement that we did for next year is the procurement for life, disability, and AD&D, and there we were able to secure rate reductions for most of the plans that are part of that group. And then with respect to all of the other plans that are included within the benefits program, all of those, the current year costs will not be changed into next year. We also provide in this report an update regarding the wellness program, and so we actually are really this fall and right now have been rolling out a lot of engagement efforts, and that includes we've been scheduling education clinics. Education classes. We've also been scheduling biometric and flu clinics. Those will be happening from now through for the balance of this year, and then we'll also those are going to be regular ongoing features of the wellness program. And then we're rolling out the first walking program, which you may have seen some of the communications regarding that. We're very much looking forward to that. So actually, we're in the period now where people can sign up for that, and then the walking competition will start on September 18th. So we're very much sort of seeing that as a way to kind of launch the engagement and to get people more, give them an opportunity to more actively participate in the program. The walking program is not a one-off, so we have the ability to continue to repeat that. We can do walking programs, over the course of the year. So this is really just the beginning. We've got a lot that's on the plate, and that we'll be doing to be able to engage the workforce.
Very good. I was a little more surprised than you about the size of some of the Anthem Blue Cross increases. So why are they not a surprise? I mean, when we first went with them, did we expect an immediate increase of that size? And why would we have expected it?
Right. So one thing to keep in mind is sort of the kind of the demographics of our workforce. So about 3/4 of our workforce is over the age of 40. So that means that we've got some challenges in terms of some of the risks that tend to occur with an older population. If you look at the PPO plan, historically, again, over the last 10 years, that plan, those premium increases can be volatile, but they've averaged about 8%. If you take out the ACA fees, the actual PPO increase was 9%. So it's not that far out of line with what we've seen historically. Nevertheless, we are working with Anthem to try to engage in some efforts to to be able to come up with some outside the box ways of trying to improve the health of the population, and then also able to hopefully better help members better access some of the services, so that there's a way to address some of the inefficiencies that can happen, and when members don't really understand how to access services.
Why was Kaiser able to give us such a low number and Anthem such a high number?
So Kaiser, actually, this year I think we would consider that to be an anomaly. We had a number of high-cost claims that were actually above the pooling amount, which is $650,000. So when that happens, they actually don't. Those claims don't actually fall to the experience. And so that was one of the factors. So I wouldn't say that kind of a situation is likely to continue to occur. We would expect that over time, the average increase will be closer to what we've seen over the last 10 years.
And who covers the almost 13% increase? Does the city cover it? Does the city employee cover all of it, or somewhere in between?
So most of the increases are paid by the city, because about 96% of total premium costs those are paid by the city. So it's the individuals that would fall into coverage levels and into plans where the premium would exceed what the Kaiser family rate is. So the way that the premium or the structure of the subsidy works is that the individual's premium will be covered up to the Kaiser family rate. That's going to be $1,590 per month next year, and then if there be any costs above that, that would be paid for by the employee. That's for the bulk of the workforce. There's also a segment of the workforce that is paying 10% of the premium, and so for those individuals, there would be an incremental increase as well that they'd be paying.
Okay. And I know we're looking at unbundling eye care services. How is that going to work, and is that financially beneficial to the city?
So we've already done that this year. That was implemented this year. And actually, we did that. That was a revenue neutral, so like there was no additional cost for doing that. And we actually were able to improve the benefit. But whereas before, under the prior plan design, the members were limited to being able to get some type of eyewear allowance every 2 years. Now we have that every year. And there's a number of other features that have been added as part of the standalone vision plan. And from the feedback we've gotten, it's been very well received.
Oh, that's good. How about some of the other changes that were made in the civilian benefits program? Obviously, we did a lot of things like replacing Blue Shield with Anthem Blue Cross, et cetera. What kind of response did we get from our constituency? Have you gotten feedback? Have you done a survey or just informally? What's been the response?
I think we've had a very positive response. One of the I think most valuable things that we did where it's really sort of trying to meet the needs of the member is we brought in what we're calling member advocates from both from Kaiser and from Anthem into our office so that employees can come and meet with those individuals. I can tell you that those people are very busy. They see members all the time, and it's that ability to have that kind of a personalized resource that really makes all the difference for the member, as opposed to calling into a call center and often feeling like they're being referred here and they're kind of being bounced around. So if they're having that kind of experience, they have that member advocate resource, and definitely employees are taking advantage of that.
How aware do you think employees are that service exists?
It's always hard to make members aware, to help members become aware of new resources that are offered. So, it's probably not very high, but I think as we engage more, so for example, with the wellness campaign, the more we get people, paying attention to us, the more that we get them to think about their benefits, the more cognizant they are. The other big thing that happens every year, is open enrollment, and a lot of folks don't even read the material. We have this kind of passive enrollment system, so you don't need to take any action. But I think in general with communications, the hope is that the more you engage on whatever topic, the more likely it is that people will find a connection point, and then they'll be able to learn more about resources.
And tell me a little more about how the new walking program will work, how you sign up, how many people you need on your team.
Right. You can register and create teams of 4 to 5 individuals, and basically you go onto the Health Trails website that we have, which is kind of the website that people use to register themselves into the program, to track how much they've walked. All of the activities that members of each team are able to log in, and it's not limited to walking. It can be lots of exercises. It could even be yoga. It could be there are a number of things that actually count towards it. So all of that can be logged in. So that campaign will run from September 18th through October 29th, and then so basically then at the end of that, each team would know how many miles they've been able to go. So the max you can get is 300 miles, and then we'll be giving out prizes to the top 5 teams.
Well, I'll have to join one of them. We'll see how we do.
We're looking forward to that.
Mr. Englander, anything you'd like to add?
I think you covered it all.
Very good. Well, in that case, we will note and file the joint report from the Personnel Department and the Joint Labor Management Benefits Committee. Thank you for coming and informing us. And we will approve the 2018 Civilian Benefits Program without objection. Hearing none, that item is passed as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item number 8.
Item number 8 is a report from the City Administrative Officer relative to the grant packet for the California State Board of State and Community Corrections Proposition 47 Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Grant Program.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. Sharon Lee with the Office of the CAO, and the Office of the City Attorney requests authority to accept grant funding from the Proposition 47 grant program from the California Board of Supervision and Community Corrections to establish the Los Angeles Diversion Outreach and Opportunities for Recovery, also called LA DOOR. LA DOOR is a health-focused, comprehensive drug intervention program that emphasizes field-based services, pre-booking diversion, and community engagement to address substance dependence within the South Los Angeles community and to limit the number of misdemeanor drug cases processed through the traditional criminal justice system. Funding in the amount of $6 million is provided for services and grant administration costs from June 16th, 2017 to August 20th, 2020. The City Attorney's Office is also here if you have any questions.
Now, the City Attorney selects participants in the program? Is it the City Attorney's Office that does that?
Yes, there is a localized region where a field-based team will be going into the community.
Identify yourself, please.
Thank you. Jeanette Flintoff, Director of Grants with the Los Angeles City Attorney's Office. Thank you. The program anticipates serving up to 200 individuals a year who are either drug-involved, homeless, or representing any sort of substance abuse or mental health disorders. And by going in the field with a team of different service providers as well as representatives of our office, we intend to engage them with wraparound services and keep them outside of the criminal justice system while addressing the factors that are leading to the chronic substance abuse.
And how does the City Attorney's Office select who the participants are?
There are data-driven hotspots within a region of South Los Angeles where there's an overlay of homelessness, high arrest rates, substance abuse, and these are target areas that the mobile teams will be deployed to interact on a weekly basis with individuals congregating in certain areas who have histories involving drug dependence.
And do they have to be city residents? Can they be any incarcerated individuals? What's the criteria?
The criteria is a willingness to engage in services based on individuals who are screening them in the field for drug dependency issues in anticipation of trying to avoid an arrest.
Does the City Attorney's Office have a sense of how much of an impact this is going to make? Will this make a dent in our homeless population?
It's a new approach that's untested, and that's where the promise of this pilot program, we hope, will yield better outcomes than what we've seen in the past by having a weekly engagement of familiar faces who are going to the individual instead of asking the individual to come to where the services are. We are hoping to see greater success rates, and perhaps this model, upon meeting with success, will be able to go to scale throughout the rest of the city.
And I know there's going to be 3 separate RFPs. Do we have a sense of how the vendors will be selected?
There will be an RFP process that conforms to the different grant requirements, and we will be seeking a housing provider that will provide services within proximity to the South Los Angeles area, where we're going to be identifying the individuals. Within South Los Angeles service providers, if they can identify certain gaps that historically have prevented some of their clients from meeting with success, the RFP will be addressing providing allocations for those gaps. For example, if a service provider lacks a mental health practitioner on staff, then the RFP, they would apply for funding to close the gap within their community of that. And then we will be doing an evaluation RFP, which was required by the grant, with a certain set-aside amount for that, and that can be citywide as far as whoever wants to apply for that.
Mr. Englander, do you have any additional?
I do. Actually, I'll wait in a little bit. I'm giving it some thought. So we already had this in Budget and Finance, and I just want to iterate my staunch opposition to Prop 47 and the failure that is what has doomed not only our city but all of California. And somebody should, at some point, repeal this thing immediately. These funds are far too little too late. They're designated not a dime that goes in the San Fernando Valley at all, or to your district at all, Mr. Koretz, in fact. And it's a 3-year cycle on these funds. So it's not even a Band-Aid. I mean, it's more of an insult. Not on your doing, of course. But I think the voters were clearly sold a bill of goods. I've yet to come across a single DA or law enforcement official, first responder. I won't say a chief, because I think they all, depending on who you talk to, has a different opinion, but the boots on the ground who aren't absolutely 100% opposed to this and see its failure firsthand. And it's not the issues that crime's just going up and our hands are tied. I think there's been a major falsehood that has been spread that police can actually still effectuate the arrest under 47. And the fact is, yes, they can. And they're out in 4 hours. And with all the drug addiction, alcoholism, mental health issues, and homelessness issues we're dealing with, it's the biggest issue we're faced with by far today in our lifetime. 37,000 people living on the streets in Los Angeles, most of which have a drug, alcohol, or mental health issue. And the ones that don't, if you live on the street long enough, you will, make no mistake. The fact is, it's not so much about effectuating arrest. The compassionate way to deal with it as well is mandating treatment, which worked clearly better than it's working without it. The numbers speak for themselves. And they've taken that away with this. And so while these funds are something, it's mildly interesting, and it doesn't make a dent into what crises has become us. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Well, and I probably agree with about half of it.
I'll take the half.
I was originally a supporter of Prop 47. Thought it's a reasonable idea, especially seeing the recidivism that the state has faced for years, and the fact that we had twice the recidivism rate of the next worst state. So ours was about 70%. The next worst state was about 35%. So there was hope that programs like this one would be helpful. I agree. I think the dollar amounts are so small and the efforts are so small that it's definitely a net negative for law enforcement. But that being the case, we do have some funding here, and if it turns out it does make some progress, then perhaps we can seek greater funding and use this as an example of what can be done. So while I'm not happy with how Prop 47 has turned out, I think this could be a significant toe in the door in terms of making some progress. So we are hopeful, and so I will concur with the Public Safety Committee in their supportive but not necessarily joyful approval of the CAO's recommendations, and we will do the same without objection. So thank you, and good luck, and we hope that you are as successful as you could be. I believe we still have public comment cards, unless we heard public comment before I was here. So public comment has been satisfied then, and I believe we have no further business before us.
No further business.
So we are adjourned.